I'm Lauren Kling, and this is 5 Things That Changed Your Life. Each episode, I sit down with a special guest and ask them to share 5 stories, events, or experiences that had an impact on their life, like a person who helped them decide a path to take, or a place that completely transformed the way they think. Perhaps it was inspiration from a family road trip or a childhood TV show that helped them to make the person they are today. This week's guest, Casey Ruggieri.
Yeah, he thought I had talent. He was like believing in me, and he's like, gotta get yourself to New York, baby. And like, go to New York and hit it hard and do the theater thing and like really go for it. He was someone in my life who really was a keystone and stood out, and he definitely changed my mind about my talents and myself and helped me see what I could do, and that, you know, someone who's so wonderful to believe in you and push you is like definitely life-changing.
Joining me as always is my producer, Alan Ng. How's it going, Alan?
All right, week 4. We made it to week 4.
We did. It's been great conversation so far. We had Chris Gore, we had Satine. Last week was Sammy Junio, our audio engineer.
And today is your friend Casey.
Right. Casey Ruggieri.
How do you know Casey?
So I know Casey because I am a mentor for an organization based out of Los Angeles called Young Storytellers, and Casey is the head mentor at my school. What happens is for 9 weeks, we take 10 fifth graders and we teach them how to write movie scripts. They craft a 5-page script. We bring in actors and they cast their own scripts, and the whole school gets to watch the show with these fifth graders' scripts. It's so much fun, so rewarding. These kids are so creative, and Casey does a phenomenal job at teaching everybody and keeping us mentors in line.
And it sounds like a really great concept. You've been doing it for a couple of years now, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been doing it 2 semesters a year, so I think in the fall it'll be my 3rd year.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this like 2 years ago, and I kept thinking, man, this is not only a great concept, but man, I wish I could do this thing. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and actually you can. You can go to Young Storytellers. I don't know if it's .org, but check it out online. If you're in the LA area or New York, you can sign up to be a mentor.
All right, well, getting back to the show, what were Casey's 5 important things?
Number 1, the Bengal Boys, rescuing a litter of kittens, becoming a crazy cat lady, and how it was the best thing she's ever done in her adult life. Number 2, get yourself to New York, baby, how an awesome old black minister made a young, naive white girl realize her talent. Number 3, Taily Bone and Other Strange Stories. A 5th grader discovers a cassette tape at the local library that opens a portal to all things supernatural. Number 4, Bury Me with 2 Cartons When I Die. Losing her father to cancer, his morbid yet hilarious sense of humor, and the sinkhole of joining the club no one wants to be a member of. And finally, number 5, Los Angeles on a Whim. Spontaneously moving to Los Angeles can result in a 10-year commitment.
Yeah, so this is going to make a great conversation.
It is. All right, here we go. Here's our conversation with Casey Ruggieri. So 5 things that change your life, and you kind of know what this is about.
Yes.
These are tent poles in your life. Things, either places, persons, things, events that redirected your life in some way.
Right.
All right.
Give it a whirl.
So the first one, you titled it The Bengal Boys. Rescuing a litter of kittens, becoming a crazy cat lady, and how it was the best thing I've done in my adult life.
So, growing up, I always had pets. My family, I grew up in upstate New York in Rochester, and we always had pets from birth. I had cats or dogs. We had pets the whole time. So my whole life was informed and colored by having pets, and I was very close with my one particular cat I had when I was 2 years old and had all the way through college. He lived to be, he died I think at 21. He was an older cat. So I formed very close bonds with animals, and that's just what I knew as normal my whole life growing up, and as a young adult, as a teenager, as a kid, having pets as part of your family, it's normal life. So when I moved to Los Angeles, I did not have any pets. I moved here, and life gets busy, and you're running around to auditions or your jobs or whatever it is you're doing, and I didn't have pets because in my mind I'm like, well, A, I probably won't even live here that long, and I don't want to get a pet and have to uproot it. B, I don't have time for a pet. I'm too busy. I'm never home. Like, why would I want to do that? But still, I felt like I couldn't put my finger on it, but I just felt like something was missing from my life. And I was on the phone with my father, you know, usually every day, almost every day I spoke with him. But he was a huge animal lover, and he would always be like, you know, I'd tell him I was lonely, or I'd tell him this or that, and he'd be like, why don't you just get yourself a cat, honey? Just get yourself a cat. And I was like, no, I can't, I don't have time, blah, blah, blah. So, cut to one of my dear friends, Michelle, who is also a huge animal lover. She calls me up one day, kind of out of the blue. She knew I love pets. She knew I love cats. You know, she has a half Bengal cat herself. So she calls me up and she's like, hey, one of my friends who I do improv with, who lives out in Whittier, which is, you know, is an hour away from where I was living at the time. She's like, hey, my friend's mom has this litter of kittens that she's gonna have to take to the shelter. They're gonna be amazing cats. They're half Bengal. They're really smart. They're gonna be really friendly, good pets. You have to go out there. You have to get a cat. You have to go. I'm like, no way. No. I don't have time. So she finally convinced me, and I went out there with my boyfriend at the time, Nick, and we went and met the mother and her friend were there. And there were, sure enough, 6 kittens in this litter, and they were adorable and so tiny and so cute, and all 2 little white ones with blue eyes and 2 little striped ones and one that was like marbled stripes. They were just awesome. So I'll speed it up a little, but so what ended up happening was I fell in love with them, and between me and then I was on a campaign to like find somebody to help me adopt these because I couldn't just take 2. I couldn't leave them there. So I go out there with 2 others of my friends, and between the 3 of us, we adopted all of them.
Wow.
I actually ended up with 3 kittens at the time, and I had 3 kittens living in my, 450 square studio apartment at the time for like a month, and that was crazy. But they were so small that they literally, I had a laptop, and each of them could sit on the laptop and all fit on it. They were so tiny. But I ended up adopting the 3rd one out to a teacher I was working with at the time, and now I have these 2. They're 7 years old now, and they're part Bengal, and one is white, and one is like a gray kind of tiger stripey, and they're the best thing I've ever done in my life because it made having these pets and having pets in general was what I was missing here. I feel like it makes your life more normal. To me, like normal life is having pets, and like the craziness of living in La La Land and like the people you meet and just the weirdness of it was so off, like a little bit unsettling and off-putting. So for me to get a pet made life seem like back to normal somehow.
Like your childhood.
Right, like how I grew up and how I equated life to be. And so having a pet and having something to be responsible for and care for and love really helps me normalize here. And they've been such good company to me, and they're just the best. And they did end up being like what my friend said, and because she has a half Bengal, they're very affectionate, they're very cuddly, very smart, very like vocal. They're awesome.
What are their names?
Atlas and Echo.
And how did you get those names?
Oh, well, I am a big Greek mythology fan. So Echo, their names fit them perfectly too, by the way. Echo was the mountain nymph who Echo, that's where the word Echo came from. The nymph would echo you. So he actually, you talk to him and he'll just talk right back to you. Like he'll follow you around and you'll say Echo and he'll meh. So that was a fitting name. And then Atlas was a titan who carried the world on his shoulders.
Right.
And very befitting to my cat Atlas because he is very much the worrywart and like is everyone okay and like watching everything all the time. So he definitely feels like, I think he feels like he has to carry the weight of making sure his brother's okay and making sure like everyone's in the right place and no one's doing anything crazy. So yeah, their names fit perfectly.
Cool. Do you think there's a difference between friends who have cats and friends who have dogs?
I do. I love dogs too, and eventually I'm going to get one. But yeah. Oh yeah.
What is the difference?
Dog people are a little more blunt and just kind of I'm not so mean to say because maybe I am secretly a big cat. Cat people are more like, they tend to be like, to me they tend to be a little more intelligent, articulate, maybe more into the creative arts or artistic things, whereas dog people seem to be, and not that there's anything wrong with being an introvert or an extrovert, but they seem to be a little more extroverted and a little more aggressive and a little more like play sports kind of people.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, push comes to shove, gun to my head, I'm a cat person, obviously, but I love me some dogs, and I really want one too.
I got it. So you had 3 cats in a 400 and something square foot apartment.
Yeah.
Did you call yourself do you think that's cat lady status?
No, I mean,
what is
I got
cat
the
lady
nickname
status?
Cat Lady from my friends and my family.
Okay.
And every Christmas,
What do you
I get
think?
a crazy cat lady mug. I have like 5 of them. It's not funny, people. Stop giving those to me. I have 2 cats. It's not crazy cat lady status.
How many is
4?
too much?
look, let's put it this way. I had a manager at one point, I won't name names, she had 8 cats
That's cat lady.
in an apartment. So.
Yeah, that's cat lady.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I have 3 in a 1-bedroom apartment. I think we're
you're
good by
teetering,
1.
Guys, you're teetering.
Yeah, we're good by 1.
One more, and it's like crazy cat lady territory. But
Right.
I think 3 is, and you have enough space, so it's fine. I mean, that's the thing. Like 2 cats is just as easy to take care of as 1 cat. You know what I mean? Same amount of litter, same amount of food. So it was a no-brainer for me because they have each other, they keep each other company when I'm not around. And 2 kittens playing is the most entertaining. Like, I didn't watch TV the whole first 2 years I had them because why would I? So they're just like, watch these kittens. They're so cute. It's great
having 1 kitten and 2 senior cats is not fun. It's
hard. It's taxing on the older cats and it's like the young cat's like, I gotta play. I need the most energy. And the older cat's like, get the hell away from me.
Yeah.
And now imagine a puppy with cats. The puppy's gonna get swiped in the face many times.
Yeah. Cat people, and I'm sure dog people have like nicknames they give their pets.
Right.
So your cats are Atlas and Echo.
Sure, yeah.
But what's like nicknames?
Nicknames, there's a couple. It depends on when I'm talking to them, but angel babies from heaven is a very common phrase in my house. Because they are angel babies from heaven. BB, Boo Boo, Mama's Boy, all that. My mom, like the cat voice comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I call them just like baby talky names.
Right.
The boys are my little boys a lot of the time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, because our cat Frosty, when he was a baby, he was not all black. He had frost, and but for a little while I was calling him Monkey because he was climbing on everything.
Yeah.
And now I call him Doodly Doo.
I heard you say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just comes out.
It just totally comes out. Like, come on, Doodly Doo.
I mean, I like Atlas. I call Addie, or Echo. I'll call like Fat Boy because he's chubby, like my chubby wubby or stuff like that.
Get yourself to New York, baby. How an awesome old black minister made a young, naive white girl realize her talent. Tell me about this.
So it sounds funnier than it is, I think, but at the time, so out of high school, I had dabbled in acting, and I wasn't sure that was the direction I was going to go. I was actually studying design, fine arts and design initially in college, but I was in an acting class, and my teacher this was at a community college in Rochester, and my teacher of all people was this older black man, tall, lanky older black man named Otis Young. And Otis Young was an incredible actor in his own right, and in his day, he'd done some movies. He lived in Los Angeles, and he worked successfully as an actor for decades. One of his, most known is The Last Detail with Jack Nicholson. He's one of the leads in that movie, and it's with Randy Quaid, Jack Nicholson, and Otis Young.
Wow.
And it's a really good movie from I think it's probably the early to mid 70s, but it centers around these 3 soldiers who have to I'm going to totally botch this, but I think that it's something about the 3 of them have to get this certain person to some point, and they're on this journey together, and it's kind of I want to say it's like a dark comedy. I mean, it's the 70s, so everything was, but so he was this great actor, right? So he's in his 70s when I met him in school, and he was teaching acting classes at this community college. And at the time, I think going through a divorce and just things like that. But what I came to find out about him was that he actually was ordained as a minister some years before, and was very close friends with the Penn family, as in Sean Penn. And he married one of the Penn brothers. He did his marriage for him. I think it was Chris Penn or one of them.
I forgot about Chris Penn.
Sure.
As
who
many
doesn't?
people.
Yeah, but he married them. So it's like, okay, so he has this crazy history, and he's friends with the Penns, and he knows Sean Penn. And I was in his acting class, I was this 18 and 19-year-old girl. And, at that age, you're totally self-conscious. You don't think you're talented. You think you suck most of the time. I was totally shy and awkward and all that stuff. But I had the acting bug, and I was in his class, and, it was kind of a scene study class / bring your own stuff class. And I'd done a monologue, and I'd done a few things. And one point, after I'd done this monologue, it was kind of this Elizabethan monologue I found, and it was really powerful, and it was about this woman who was this elite, higher status woman, a noble, who was having an affair with the stable hand or whatever, and he was rejecting her, and so for her to be rejected by someone so low and so base was completely she cheated on her husband for you, and how could you do this to me, and she's in love with him and he's leaving her. So it was this whole thing, which was probably at the time, now that I'm looking back, I was probably too young to do that monologue, but I did it, and and afterwards after class, Otis, he comes up to me, and he's so tall, and he comes up, he's like, just looks at me, he's like, baby, you gotta get yourself to New York, baby. You gotta, he thought I had talent. He was like believing in me, and he's like, gotta get yourself to New York, baby. And like, go to New York and hit it hard and do the theater thing and like really go for it. And I did go to New York a couple years later. But at the time I wasn't like I was doing like UCB and like improv stuff and comedy stuff and writing, because I ended up finishing college by going to film school. So I was in New York briefly before I moved to Los Angeles and pursued acting. So that did change my life, because this was someone who I admired so much and I thought was such a good actor, and he was so full of wisdom and so funny, and just the way he taught class, like everyone was spellbound by him. He had that way with people, and he would tell one of the big tough guys in class, he'd go, baby, sweetness and light, and he would talk to people like that. He would call a big giant like football guy, sweetness and light, and then he would go, he was just like this amazing man, and he's not with us anymore, but he was someone in my life who really was a keystone and stood out, and he definitely changed my mind about my talents and myself, and helped me see what I could do, and that, someone who's so wonderful to believe in you and push you is like definitely life-changing.
Was he the first person outside of your parents' family to be a guiding light?
I wouldn't say anyone in my family really pushed me into the creative arts.
In general, you know how like...
I do. I mean, I had teachers along the way. Like, my fourth grade teacher stands out in my mind as someone who inspired my creativity. But in high school, but he was the first real theatrically minded, acting minded person who was like, go for it. So that was really the first time I was like, maybe I can do this.
Do you have an idea of what he saw in you? Or?
At the time, I think he thought I had some talent, and he saw something in me, like, this girl has some acting chops, or maybe it was just, you gotta take it with a grain of salt, because I'm in a community college with a bunch of other people who want to be actors.
Right.
But I think, like, for someone who'd been there, done it, and had gone and done this, and really worked as a professional actor, and worked with some huge names, and had a career, for someone like him to be like, you got some chops, was like, okay, maybe there's more to this than I'm giving it myself a chance for. So. Did you
ever follow up with him, keep in touch with him, let him know what you were doing?
Sadly, I didn't. He passed away some years ago now.
Okay.
And I wish I had, but I didn't, because, at that age, I'm just like, you start getting busy and you move on.
Of course.
But he is somebody that will always be in my heart, and someone who really moved me and inspired me.
Now, you had mentioned fifth grade, and that leads us into your story, Taily Bone and Other Strange Stories. A fifth grader discovers a cassette tape at the local library that opens a portal to all things supernatural. Mm-hmm. Tell me about this.
That could have been fourth or fifth grade. I can't really remember, but yeah, dude, I have always been into fairy tales, folk tales, ghost stories, anything scary, supernatural, ever since I can remember, and probably before fifth grade. But when I was in fourth, fifth grade, I spent a lot of time at the library, and I happened to come across and reading ghost stories, and I would I don't think you can even find these anymore, but I would go into like the historical sections and find case studies on paranormal activity. I was like a little like Scully or something, or right. Mulder rather, like a little like fifth grade detective, you know what I mean? Like X-Files. Tell me, like, I would look up, like, literally find these case studies from, like, the 18 or 1700s that someone had transcribed into this crappy old, like, hardcover book that was buried on some shelf in the library, and, like, read about them. And, like, they couldn't be explained and stuff like that. So it sparked my interest. So I found at the public library this tape cassette called The Taily Bone and Other Strange Stories, and it was a collection of ghost stories from the Appalachian region of America that this man from that area presumably, put together. And he was a folk artist, folk teller by trade, and he played a fiddle or a violin as well. And so he had recordings of, I don't know if he did it himself, but he had recordings of these stories, and he used a violin and fiddle in the stories to like accentuate so he had like a soundtrack to his stories, okay. And it really spoke to like the Appalachian tone of the stories. So I became obsessed with it, and obviously I like I made myself a copy of it.
Right.
And listened to it obsessively, and I memorized all the stories backwards and forwards. And at the time, I would tell these ghost stories to anyone that would listen, and for years I did it. And not just those; it like sparked my storytelling, whatever you want to say, my quest for storytelling or my obsession with storytelling and folktales and scary things. That's the moment that I think finding that tape and listening to those stories and just being like, whoa. Where is this and where did these come from, really started me on this journey of finding and investigating and exploring folktales from different regions, not only of our country but of the globe, like Japanese stories, Chinese stories, African American stories, Native American stories. And I would like I'm the oldest of my cousins on my mother's side. Like me and my cousin Wesley were the oldest ones, so I had a whole plethora of younger cousins who would just sit like and listen to my stories and like, Tailybone, tell Tailybone again, tell Tailybone again. And even into like, within my nieces, I would tell it to them. And now they're like, older and they're still like, tell Tailybone, tell Tailybone. It's like, it became this like cousin Casey, Aunt Casey is the storyteller.
Right.
And they would always want to hear Tailybone, which is this creepy story about this old guy living in the backwoods of the Appalachian all by himself. And he comes across this very, very peculiar creature. And that's all I'll say about it, unless you want me to tell the whole story.
Wow.
But it's so when I say it opened a portal to the supernatural, I literally mean a portal in my own mind.
Right.
Like, it opened up this whole world of exploration into all that stuff. And man, there's so much going on in that world. Like,
interesting
crazy.
Because you had mentioned earlier about Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
You now are head mentor for 10-year-olds who are you're teaching stories. So you are a storyteller through and through.
Right.
Do you believe in past lives and future lives?
I do.
And do you think you could have been a storyteller in another life, or do you think...
I do. Yeah, I do think that. That's funny. Yeah, I do. There's something that's always been with me about that stuff, and I gravitate to it. I gravitate to the open fire and the idea of oral tradition and, storytelling. And I think that's something that's a dying and lost art in our society now. And nobody tells stories anymore. I mean, it's just even the stories that your parents would tell or your grandparents, just sitting around conversing with each other. Like, I am half Italian and half Irish, so there's some good stories. And just sitting, I think it's probably where it came from as a small child, like sitting around listening to my grandparents talk and my parents and my aunts and uncles and the way they would speak and the inflections and the jokes. And it was like fascinating. And then, Italians are one way and Irish Catholics are a completely different way in the way they tell stories. And there's like this amalgam happening in me of both sides of this. And then to come to find out, whoa, there's these crazy Native American folktales and African folktales and Chinese stories. That it's just incredible. But the one thing I found, the more research I've done, the more folktales I've read, the more of a through line and kind of connectedness you see. Like, there's some universal things going on in all cultures, and you find it in folktales. You might not find it in like cultural differences right now and today, but the deeper you go, it's weird. Like, the further back you go and read these stories and folktales, the more simple everything seems, because there's some universal tying, connecting traits among all cultures.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I noticed that with, because I've had a conversation with producer Alan, who comes from a theology background, and up until recently, I'd never been like a religious kid. I grew up Jewish, but wasn't religious. But I've kind of discovered the universe, working in partnership with the universe more than working with God. But talking to people who study the Bible and have that background, the stories they're saying it still blows my mind. The stories they're talking about are the same ones that I hear, and it's just instead of God or Jesus or those stories, it's the universe. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah. I think I'm if you follow any like Carl Jung, or I'm a big Joseph Campbell reader and all that. So like the collective unconscious and the theory that we're all connected to each other on a higher plane of unconsciousness, and whether that's we connect when we pass over or whether it's we connect in our dream state. There's something unifying and like I'm losing my words here, but there's something that connects us all. Operating on some kind of different plane and not just the one we're on.
Right.
So that these myths, and stories and folk tales have these motifs in them that are universal and deeply rooted in the human psyche.
Right. They're based on truths.
Based on,
some way.
human universal truth, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, have you ever used an animal communicator?
Yes.
Wow.
I did. That's probably where my official Crazy Cat Lady title came into play. A couple years ago, my cat Atlas was acting very, very strangely. He was restless, he couldn't sit still, he was itchy and running around, and he was hiding behind kind of like how you have your console and TV against the wall. He would hide back there and he wouldn't come out. He would not come out. And it was just like, I was beside myself, like, what is wrong with my little darling angel baby? Like, what is wrong with him? Why is he acting like this? I couldn't figure out any reason. Like, the food hadn't changed, the litter was the same, nothing had like changed to make him be so agitated. So I called a pet psychic healer, an animal healer, to come to my apartment and cleanse him. And she not only did a cleansing on him, she did a cleansing on me, she did a cleansing on my apartment. She told me what was going on with him, she told me what was going on in my apartment, the energy and everything that was there. And she did that thing with the liquids and like spit it and spoofed it and sprayed it into the apartment, and I was like, what is going on right now? But it worked, because after that he was fine. Like, he started acting like himself again, and I cannot explain it. I didn't change anything physically, like his diet or anything. I don't know. So she helped. So I believe it. And now I'm on her newsletter. I get her newsletter. She has an email newsletter.
Do you know who she is?
Sandy Smith.
Okay.
That's her name, and she's great.
We've had a couple different ones.
Yeah.
One was through somebody else, and she came out the first time when our cat Harley had to go for radiation, something where he had to get radiated and spend 5 days in Orange County. 5 days in Orange County. 1 day in Orange County.
Hey.
But he had to spend 5 days, and Beanie is his baby brother, and we were worried and concerned about how Beanie was going to be able to be without his brother, because he still needs Harley. He never got over that stage the needing. Mm-hmm. So we had our communicator come out and talk to him, and whether you think it's crazy or not, he was fine. And so that was the first time, and we're like, okay, it's possible. Whether you think it's crazy or not, it worked.
It's amazing. Yeah, they're just able, because they don't have, animals want to communicate, they just don't speak. So if you can get on their radar, so to speak, their level, whatever energy level, their mental waves or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and someone in my family said they used to be an animal communicator, so I was just curious in general, but I knew about it.
Yeah.
Then we had a cat who was 3.5 when he passed. And really too soon.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to know. So we actually reached out to a world famous communicator, Layla Del Monte, we did a Skype session. She was in France.
Wow.
And we were in Atwater Village.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she would say little, you're always the skeptic. I'm always the skeptic going, okay, really? And then she would say something extraordinary, and then it's like, okay, that's one thing. And then she would say something else. Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But she said that the cat was here on Earth for me, and I was looking for, what did she refer to? Not a guardian angel, but
a spirit guide.
A spirit guide. I wasn't looking. My wife wanted to know, and this was to help her more than myself. But most of the conversation was for me.
Wow.
And at one point, Layla says, "Lauren, how's your health?" I'm like, "Fine." She's like, "No, really, how is it?" And we were kind of looking at each other, going, "What's going on?" And she says, "I just feel this energy inside of you, and have you explored meditation?" And I was like, "No." But that changed. That was a tent pole of my life.
Wow.
To have so now when I say one of my 5 things was how a cat, a cat who had passed suggested meditation.
Wow. you gotta think about, like, you know, if you buy the whole mediums who can connect with people that have passed on, why not animals too?
Right.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's pretty, I could talk about that stuff forever.
I know. I was going to say, if I say ancient alien theorist, are you like, oh my God?
No,
the dude
not
with the
that
crazy
extreme,
hair.
not that extreme.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it, but I'm not, yeah. I mean, that's a whole other, that stuff's scary to me.
That's
because
freaky.
I feel like I've been experiencing things, and that's, gives me the heebie-jeebies.
There's a fine line, I guess, between what you find interesting as far as old stories.
Well, my bottom line, I think, theory that I've come to is, if you, like, I used to do astral projection and I stopped because, and I think with meditation you can get, when you open up that side of your brain, or whatever beta, whatever alpha waves your brain is operating at that level, and you are, that's a whole other story I don't need to get into, but
okay.
I believe you can connect with all kinds of entities and intelligent beings, not just people that have passed on, but other entities that are alive right now.
And you experienced that?
I've experienced it, and it was, at the time, it was very scary.
Wow.
Very, very scary. So I
Okay.
stopped doing it because it's like, I can't now. This is creepy.
So earlier you and I were talking about mediums, animal communicators, and that fascination with those things that just aren't explainable to a lot of people. And then you mentioned you had gone to a medium to communicate with your father,
Mm-hmm.
who had passed a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of your things. And you titled it, Bury Me with 2 Cartons When I Die. Losing my father to cancer, his morbid yet hilarious sense of humor, and the sinkhole of joining the club no one wants to be a member of. So let's start out with there's a lot of things in there, but what made you want to communicate with him? What were you expecting to hear, and did you hear that?
Yeah, my father passed away of cancer almost, in March it'll be 6 years. And when I guess I'll tell the medium story. Okay, so he passed away just shy of 6 years ago, and it was a whole gross, awful, traumatic experience. As anyone knows who has anyone who's passed away of cancer, it's awful. So, my friend Stacy, who's a good friend who I've known for about 10 years, she has this woman she goes to, this medium she goes to, and she's like, Casey, you should go to her. She contacts people that have passed on. She's really great. She'll help you. She'll work with you. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Why not? I mean, I was a little hesitant and nervous because it's not like it's like, I'm going to talk to my third cousin that, this is my father that passed away, and this is going to be very painful and hard. So I went to this woman, and her name is Barbara, and she works out of her home, and she didn't always have this psychic ability. She acquired it when around the time she was 22, she had a near-death experience. She had a really bad car accident and went through the windshield of her car.
Wow.
And all this glass went into her face, and she had multiple surgeries and plastic surgeries, and she thought she was going to lose her eye and all this stuff. And she's in her 40s now, but to this day she still has glass that will be working its way out of her skin, and you'll see like a sore on her face, or it's so sad 'cause she's this beautiful woman. But anyway, she acquired the ability to communicate with those that have passed on after this accident. She has a spirit guide that helps her. So this is what Stacy told me about her, and she used to actually wait tables with this woman. So I'm like, all right, I'll go. She's close by. I'll give it a shot. I don't know what I think about it, but I'll try it. So I go to this woman. I go to Barbara, and she greets me at her door, and she hugs me right away. And I go in, and you don't tell her ahead of time who you're trying to contact. You don't tell her anything. You just go. So I go in, and she says to me, my cat was yesterday in the living room playing with someone, and immediately I was like, oh, I'm gonna be crying. Well, I was like, because my father was a huge animal lover and cat lover, and he connected strongly with any pet, especially his pets, but any pet.
Right.
So I was like, she's like, usually sometimes, to preface that, she says, a lot of the time before my client comes, whoever they're trying to communicate with will come to me first. So when she said there was someone here playing with my cat yesterday, I'm like, it's my dad. It was him. I knew it. I felt the hairs on my neck, like it was him. So she starts to, she goes into kind of this trance state, but she's with you, but she doesn't necessarily look at you. She's kind of, she does this a lot, and because she's seeing, and what happens, I guess, for mediums, and at least this is what she's telling me happens for her, and I think it's for most, the person that is you're trying to communicate it with, to make it easier, and because you're so skeptical, most people are skeptical when they go, they'll send you very distinct, specific images or symbols that you can connect with. That's the easiest way, I think, instead of words or whatever, is for them to send like a symbol or an image that you are like, oh yeah, I know that person from that. So the first thing she says is she says, I'm seeing like smashed out cigarettes in an ashtray, but like really like rubbed out, smoked down to the butt cigarettes. And I'm like, I start laughing. I'm like, my dad was a 2-pack-a-day smoker.
Wow.
And his joke was always, his running joke was when we'd give him flack about quitting smoking, he'd be like, bleh, when I die, bury me with 2 cartons of Marlboros. He smoked Marlboros. And it was like his morbid joke.
Right.
Flash forward to he died of cancer. But so that was like, that image was like, oh my God. Yeah, he smoked him down to the butt and he would rub him out. And he always, his fingers were yellow from smoking. He was always chain smoking. So I was like, oh my God, it's him. And the whole stuff, I was there with her, I think, for an hour and a half. And it was just, she was telling me things and seeing things and like telling me things that there's no way she could know. I didn't know this woman from Adam. She could not know these things about my father or about me or about my family. And just one after the next, just things that were just like stacking up to just, there was no way it wasn't real. And I was crying, it was just all this stuff. And she told me things. I wrote everything down. And I have a notebook full of the stuff she told me, but just the things she was saying about my relationship with my siblings and what he wanted from me with my siblings and my mother. And she has you come with a question. You pose a question, like something like, for me it was like, am I going to meet the right person? Because at the time I was single and I'd been single for a long time. And so my question to the universe or to whoever was like, will I meet the right person? Will I meet the right man? And so she has a combination of her spirit guide, the person you're communicating with, and her psychic. She has an amazing psychic ability as well. She'll use those 3 things to try to address your question. And so she left me with him, and he said, she's like, she described this man. She's like, you're going to meet the right guy. He's going to be older than you, and he's not from here. He's from the north, or he's from somewhere else. He's not from here. And he's in the entertainment business, but he's on the producer side or the writer side or something. He's not an actor. He's not a musician. He's and you're gonna meet him, and he's gonna take you out of your life right now and help you or get you out of it. And I'm assuming she meant like the grind of waiting tables or just all that stuff, like slogging away at whatever I was doing. And so I was like, yeah, okay, he sounds like a dream man. He sounds perfect,
right.
Like, yeah, okay, I'll meet that guy. And then she left it with my father saying, he said, don't worry, honey, he's not going to let you be alone. You're not going to be alone. And it just made me waterworks, because every time I would speak with my father on the phone, living here by myself, he'd be like, I just want you, hope you meet someone. I want you, every time I'd speak, do you have a boyfriend? Have you met somebody? He was always like, wanted me to be with somebody and, be happy.
Right.
So that's just, some of the stuff. There was so much stuff. I can't even get into all the stuff. But cut to now, that was, I think that was 2.5, 3 years ago when I went to around there. Now I'm so crazy. It makes the hairs on my neck stand up. I have met the man of my dreams. He is a little older than me. He is in the business. He's like he's on the operational business side of it. Right. He lived in New York for 12 years, so he's not from here. And he's all these things and it's just like, and there's so many similarities between him and my father. And there's just all these things that have lined up that give me little like signs that he sent him to me. Like, I believe my father found a way to guide him to me, and it's like, it's very moving. Like when we first got together, all these things, and it was just like we cry, like we tear up about it, because it's just like, he'll never meet my father, but it's just there's something there. It's crazy.
That amazes me is these communicators and people tell us something that's going to happen in the future.
Right.
So does that mean that our lives have already been written out?
I don't think so. I don't believe that your fate is sealed when you're born. I believe that because we're born with free will, mm-hmm. I think that I really very much believe that we make our own lives. We are the masters of our own ship, and we set our own course. I think there are, for instance, I've gone to other psychics and things, and I think I've come to believe that they're just reading a picture of right now. They're reading your energy right now, and they're giving you the best snapshot of what they see, vibrating around you right now.
Okay.
It can change. And I think what she told me about the man I was going to meet, and about, she also told me about my future children, and she described them and how they would be, and actually what she was describing is my sister, my older sister she said I was going to have 2 daughters. She said one of them would be like an indigo child, very psychic abilities. She'll be able to speak with your father. She sees him. She has some of his mannerisms and his sense of humor. My niece Viola, from the time she was born and could talk and would start telling her mother and us, she's like, Grandpa came to visit me last night, and she would describe him. She would sing songs that he sang to us when we were little. She could not know. She described our childhood dog she'd never seen a picture of. Like, he visits her when she's sleeping, and like it's crazy. So this medium described her to me, and now it's like it's happened, just not to me, to my sister.
Right.
So it's like, how do you explain that stuff? It's not, there's no like scientific explanation for that.
That's where it gets hard, because again, it's like, are our lives predetermined, or are they not predetermined? Or so are there coincidences in life, and we have free choice to kind of like a pinball in a pinball machine to nudge those paths.
I think that this is going to get deep, but I think that we don't just have one soulmate. I think we have a group of soulmates, and I think that you make contracts with those souls for lifetimes over. And I think that those things help shape your life. Like the big kind of things in your life, like the people in your life or the paths you take, are informed or shaped by your soul group. And I think it's kind of predetermined before you come. But I do believe in your day-to-day and the life that you want to live, I really do believe that you have free will in that. And I think that perhaps like someone who wants to be an astronaut and always wanted that, but is born with some kind of disability or something, but they still make it happen. Like, those challenges are set up ahead of time. You have to overcome something in every life, I think, to get to the next level. Right. Which, my Catholic upbringing would be like, "What, you witch?" But no, you know what I mean? Like, but I believe that, and didn't believe that right out the gate. I think that's something I've come to over the years of just exploring spirituality and what rang true to me. What does ring true to me? Right.
I don't know how it is for you, but I feel like it's one of the best things about growing up, being an adult, is being able to discover and appreciate this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, another 10 pole talk about life changing. Moving to Los Angeles was, for me, like, opening that up too. Like, coming here and just being on your own and really being able to develop your own awareness. And frankly, I grew up on the East Coast in upstate New York, and the difference of people's level of spirituality and self-awareness and just tolerance and openness for things is much greater here. So that for me helped with my starting to discover that stuff.
You mentioned that number 10, Los Angeles, on a whim, that you spontaneously moved to LA. How spontaneous is spontaneous?
Pretty spontaneous. I went to Ithaca College for film, and they have a really good internship program out here. Emerson College and Ithaca have good, solid internship programs out here for their film programs. So in college, I came out here and did a couple internships in development, and one was in reality TV, and one was at a film company. And I was here for a summer, and I hated it. I hated LA. I hated it. I was like, get me out of here. I'm a New Yorker. I'm never coming back here. This sucked. These people are fake. Every stereotype. I was like, yep, that's true. Never coming back. After college, I pretty much right away moved to New York City, and I only lived there for 10 months. I don't even think that long, because my roommate, who was also one of my friends from college, was like, he wanted to start a film production company. He's like, I'm moving to LA to do this, and he's like, see ya. And I was like, I'll go with you. And I did. I moved out here with him, and we were roommates for a little bit when I first got here, and I moved here. Just I was like, yeah, I'll go. I didn't have any at that point. You're fresh out of college. I don't know what I'm doing with my life yet. Right. I'm in New York. I hate it. I'm bartending. I'm drunk every night. I'm miserable here. I can't stay here. I'll kill myself. So I moved to LA, and I told my family. They were like, what? They were a little heartbroken that I was leaving, but wished me the best, and packed my little Toyota Camry, and off I went. And now it's 10 years later, and I'm still here. So something's going right or terribly wrong. I don't know. One of the two.
Do you feel like you have a purpose, or are you staying here out of convenience because you're already here?
I got rent control. No, I'm just kidding. No, I stay here because for what I mean, and it was tough. When my father got sick and battling cancer, he got cancer and he battled it for about a year and a half before he had remission. He went it back and he died. So 3-year period, that was really hard to stay here and not just leave. But something like in me was like, no, you got to see this through and stay here and follow your dreams. And he was like, the way like, one of the day I found out he had 2 months to live, I was here, and my uncle my uncle calls me. He's like, your father they gave him 2 months. I like fell on the floor at work in my restaurant job. I got a phone call from my uncle, and I didn't answer it because I was working, but I saw the phone call and I just knew, and I literally dropped to the floor. And my manager, who was this wonderful woman at the time, her mother had died of cancer a couple years before that. She runs over to me. She's like, Casey, she picks me up. She's like, what is it? I'm like, I think my dad. She's like, go. Just, she knew too. She's like, just go. Yeah. I go and get in the car. I'm digressing here. I call my uncle. He's like, they've given your father 2 months to live. You have to come home right now. You have to come home right now. I was like, fuck. All right, I have to go home. So then the next phone call I make is to my dad. He's like, no, honey, don't worry about it. You don't come home. He's like, don't trouble or don't worry. He's like, that's how he was. He was like, try to downplay everything. I'm like, you're dying. I'm coming home. You know what I mean? Like, but so he always like told me to go for my dreams, and every card I would get from him, birthday card, Valentine's Day, would always say at the bottom, I miss you so much, but I'm proud of you. Keep plugging away. Keep going for your dreams. So I stayed here, and I'm still here, and I'm still plugging away, and I feel like, acting and writing it's so hard, and it's, you're struggling all the time, but I feel like I'm closer now than I've ever been, and I can feel him around me sometimes, and, to whatever degree, like happy or proud that I'm still going for it, and hopefully someday it'll all be worth it. But I really enjoy LA now. I enjoy the quality of life you have here as opposed to New York City. I hated New York City. And I think you can really have a good quality of life here, and the people I've met here are so great. And actually, like, that stereotype that I thought when I was a 21-year-old asshole, like chip on my shoulder, is totally not true. Some of the most caring, deepest people I've met in my life are here.
That's
in Los Angeles.
One of the happiest things that I've discovered, that myth of LA and actors. And yes, there's weird people, but it's taken not a lot of work to avoid those people.
Right.
And I've only found, and I think, again, it's that energy attracts like-minded, kind people. And there's only been there's only been like 2 teacher-type people where I get nuts when I think about what assholes they are. I save it all for those two. But,
you have to look, but not much effort. There's a lot of communities of people here who are really, really in the right frame of mind and have a good moral compass, which is hilarious to say because it's Los Angeles, and there are tons of people who don't.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who are like doing the right thing, or like doing what they think is the right thing and improving their lives, and like maybe they do volunteer work, or maybe they work at Gentle Barn, or all these things that people can do that are accessible here. And not so much so maybe in Chicago or New York City, where you would have a little harder of life. I think the climate certainly helps here. It's easy. It's easier here. It lends to non-depression, so that's good.
We'll wrap it up. What is your dream? Do you have a specific goal in mind where you would like to see yourself?
I have a lot of goals now, and you know what the beauty of that is? I think most of my life I didn't have a long-term plan. I didn't see, I only thought in the short term, and I'm like, well, I just gotta get through this month, or like someday I want that thing over there. But I think now in my life, my dreams are coming true. Like, the things I want are starting to happen, and the things I've always wanted are starting to happen, and I'm very grateful for that. And you start to see things happening. It's like, whoa, it's almost like so moving that you can almost cry. It's just like, I think my goal was always like to be a successful actor or writer, and it was such a vague goal, and it was over there somewhere, and now it's like coming to the forefront. So now the goals are crystallizing and being even fuller. Like, my goal now is not just to be a successful actor. My goal is to start my own nonprofit storytelling company. My goal is to write this children's book. My goal is to write my it's like there's so many things that I want to do, and I see the possibility of those things happening, which I never really saw before. So life is good.
Is there anything you want to plug or?
Oh, yeah.
I'd love the Young Storytellers Foundation for sure. I'd love to plug. That's the one we were speaking about that we both mentor for and volunteer for is an organization that is wonderful for anyone who has a spare hour once a week and lives in the greater Los Angeles. It's in over 30 schools, and you work one-on-one with a 5th grader, and you get to help them create their own story, and it's so fun, and it's the least amount of energy you can put in. If you're interested at all in doing any volunteer work and you like working with children, I recommend it highly.
What's the website?
It's youngstorytellers.com.
Yeah.
And you can register on there and apply to be a mentor. Or you can, as an actor, act in the big shows and you get to act out the kids'
And those
stories.
are amazing.
Yes.
Those are amazing when you get to just jump around on a stage because you're performing a story that a 5th grader wrote.
Yeah.
And they don't care if you're an actor or just somebody there to have fun.
Yeah, as long as you bring big energy and you can bring these characters to life.
Right.
Yeah, it's the best. Really fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My thanks as always to my co-host and producer Alan Ng and to this episode's guest, Casey Ruggieri. Casey is an actor and writer with credits including Gone Girl, Tales of Halloween, House of Lies, The Kroll Show, and a whole bunch of commercials. She also works with Young Storytellers, a nonprofit dedicated to helping children find their creative voice through screenplay and story writing. Visit youngstorytellers.com for more information, and if you're in Los Angeles or New York and would like to volunteer with Young Storytellers, check out the volunteer link. Follow Casey on Facebook at facebook.com/Casey Ruggieri and on Instagram and Twitter at Casey Ruggieri. That's CASEYRUGGIERI. Thank you also to our sound engineer, Sammy Junio of the Hello Lionface Podcast Network. Music by My Monthly Date. Subscribe to 5 Things That Changed Your Life on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. And go ahead and leave us a nice review if you'd like. You can follow us online at 5thingspodcast.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/5thingspodcast, that's FIVE, or on Twitter at 5thingspod, that's FIVEPOD. For 5 Things That Changed Your Life, I'm Lauren Kling.